easier, quote unquote, Mark Shkreli, sometimes it's easier to raise $100 million than it is to raise $1 million. Do you care to elaborate?
Well, I think people, it's sort of like the expensive car versus the used car. Like sometimes the fact that you're raising $100 million is attractive to investors. Like there's so many investors that can't, like T. Rowe Price and so forth. Like the number of options they have for investing 5 million, 10 million, 20 million at a time. The Soroses, the Greenlights, the big hedge funds or big investors, sovereign wealth funds, etc. They just, you try and raise $1 million, they say, come back to us when you're serious. You try and raise $100 million, they'll take a meeting. You got to go find a bunch of small investors.
I like to pretend to trade and go on Wall Street bets.
Okay.
Do you think that's like a good waste of time for me, or
well, it depends.
About that?
I guess it depends on what you're trying to. Are you a Berkeley student, by the way?
Yes, I am.
Tell me one thing about Berkeley that Berkeley students would know.
Tell me one thing about Berkeley?
Yeah, that Berkeley students would know, so we know you're not lying.
Yeah. So I'm not a social justice warrior, but yeah.
Tell me one thing about UC Berkeley that Berkeley kids would know, so we know you're not lying. I think you're lying, bro.
He's bullshitting, dude.
Just ask me anything you want to know.
Probably not even near Berkeley.
What was your SAT score to get in?
2300.
What's the medical school called?
There's no medical school at Berkeley.
Very nice.
He's legit. He's legit.
Very nice. I mean, do you want to be an investor?
I'd like to. Like, I'm thinking about going to banking or like trading. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'd spend that much time on Reddit. I would learn. I would go to a site called 𝗠𝗿𝗏. Try that out.
Okay.
See if you can master 𝗠𝗿𝗏. If you're true 2300 material, go check that out. And you could always DM me. I'm done with this advice though. 1.
You mentioned the food industry and how it was like bad, like you should check out the food industry or something like that.
Sort of, yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, if you think about a lot of the food companies, they try to make their food as addictive as possible and, not necessarily as healthy as possible, and they're less regulated than drug companies. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people call out companies like Coca-Cola and Kraft for, worrying 100% more about profits than they care about the health of their consumers, their customers.
Yeah.
The fattier, the better tasting the food, and the more it keeps them coming back to buy more and more and more and more. That's what they care about, and there's a reason that America has an obesity problem, and part of it is the food industry. And when I get criticized for saving lives, it kind of pisses me off because I'm not the only one who cares about shareholder value.
Yeah, you're just fixing the problem that's caused by the food industry.
Well, not exactly, but yeah, a little. So some drug companies do that. I like to focus on lethal illnesses that really have no solutions, and
Absolutely.
Patients are in big trouble without somebody to care for them. That's what I like to do. But the rest of the drug industry does focus quite a bit on exactly the problems that the food industry causes.
Really sad.
Yeah, well,
But really, they profit from each other because it's a vicious cycle.
Well, look at cancer, right? I mean, tobacco companies are basically...
And I mean, if you've got somebody with diabetes and they're continuing to eat the junk, and then they're more relying on medications and
paying for that insulin.
Cholesterol meds and all that, too.
Yeah, insulin, cholesterol.
How do you choose a mentor?
I think you have to make sure that person is as successful as you'd like to be or more, Yeah, so I don't know how you choose a mentor, but you want to look for great success, and then eventually you don't need a mentor as long as you have the tools to teach yourself, which is not easy when you're starting out, and it's a good idea when you're like up until probably you're 25 just to follow somebody else's lead,
You get a lot of different advice out there, and sometimes you have to filter some bad advice that you get from people who are trying to be
for sure,
good advisors. And
most people are not giving you good advice. That great advice is very rare, and just if you can't find someone to directly be your mentor, just kind of be there's a lot of value in just a surrogate mentor, and this is reading. Like, a lot of people think they know everything about Warren Buffett, but there's actually, you can Google about him, like old partnership letters and stuff that basically almost nobody's read. So if you really wanted to go ham, you could pretend in your mind that Warren Buffett's your mentor. And I have a friend from Brazil who actually does this. And he flew out to see Buffett speak, and Buffett invited him to dinner. So it's easier than you think. You know, everyone thinks it's so hard, you know, but you just got to be like, kind of like a little bit of a stalker. Like, I got all these girls like following me around. Some of them make it through. Some of them get to my apartment. You know,
I'm lucky.
You know, and you know, and there's guys too. You know, I mean, I don't invite them to my apartment, but you know, some of them they send the right email and I respond to the email. So you know, if the right person, you know, asks me the right question, you just gotta kind of psychologize about it. So you got to pick your mentor based on their attributes, their personality, their success, and then you have to find a way. If they can't be your mentor directly, find someone that works for them or knows them or used to work for them. A good example is Jim Simons. Jim Simons is like the richest man in the world. He's not going to be your mentor. But there's a guy who worked for him, who's one of his close partners, that actually teaches a class at SUNY Stony Brook. And you can enroll in that class. That's it. It's in Long Island. You can go take the class. In fact, if you just want to take that one class, that's all you got to do. And you'll get to know him. He's going to be your professor. You know, so there's lots of ways. You just got to kind of have to think and really want it. And if you really, really want it, you'll get it. You know, that's my 2 cents. If you don't want
Totally agree with you.
it should just happen by accident, basically.
What advice would you have for any young entrepreneurs trying to pursue a career in web development or app development?
I don't really have any advice, man. I don't give advice.
Well, in general, for those
No advice. I don't give advice. I hope you fail, in fact. I hope you fail and I succeed.
Why is that?
Because I hope you fail because you're my competitor and I'm going to crush you. And I hope you fail at everything you do and I make all the money and you don't.
What if we can work together?
No.
Why not?
No, because I crush everybody.
The chances of us working together means you'll have more chance of success.
No. I have I have partners.
Okay. Could you help others?
No, I don't help others. I help me.
What made you like this?
I'm successful. I'm a fierce competitor. I crush everything in my path to win. That's what Bill Gates did. That's what Mark Zuckerberg did. It's called being a businessman. It's not friendship, dude. That's my first advice for you. Stop thinking everyone's going to be your friend and worry about you. You think I'm going to do something for you? What are you going to do for me? That's the question.
That's why I would like to actually like to work together.
Nah, I'm good.
Alright, thanks.
Ugh, Canadians.
Einstein loved taking trips, trains. You get a lot of time to think, and if you haven't experienced different things, like that's sort of one of the great ways to find yourself is to try experiencing lots of things like athletics. You know, just try running if you've never done it, and then try just everything. You know, you'll find something you love, and then you have to ask yourself if it's practical to pursue that for the rest of your life or not practical. I think you'll find a richer life very easily if you just kind of open yourself up to so many different things. And if you can't, you probably have a psychiatric issue, which you can talk to somebody about. Because the definition of depression is people who can't find pleasure in things. And, you know, I'm like this very happy person because I find pleasure in basically everything. I love reading. I don't know what, I'm not sure what it is that I don't love. You know, I love music. I love art. You know, I just, if there were 100 hours in a day, it still wouldn't be enough for me to do all the things I wanted to do. That's somebody who's like 𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗏, that term. Love of life. But if you can't, and you have like a pessimistic perspective and so forth, it may just be that you don't need to find yourself at all. You actually need to find a physician, which isn't, I'm not trying to be derisive or anything. I think that people have to do that at some point in their life. If they can't find things that they love, that's sort of a, to me, more, you know, to call it an illness is maybe harsh, but I think it might be. So,
see, like, my entire high school and elementary school life, my school board actually forced me to go see a psychologist. It might have been the grade of the psychologist, what they were trying to get out of me, but I felt like it was very detrimental to me.
Yeah.
My social aspects.
Yeah, no, I mean, you could see a psychiatrist, and that's, you know, a little bit better. Psychologists are very hit or miss, especially child ones.
childhood ones. So, but you know that this is what you usually pay a psychologist to talk about. But at the same time, you know, there's no right or wrong. But you know, certainly seeing a little bit more of the world than you've seen can't hurt. Meeting a vast number of different kinds of people won't hurt. You know, there's a lot of things you can do to broaden your horizons, because it sounds like they haven't been that broad, and I think you're probably doing the right thing, you know, kind of going on this journey.
But like, when you like actually have like a serious question or whatever, do you like go to real friends, or do you just go online and stuff like that? Like, what's the rest of your life like?
It's a great question. When I have a serious question, I kind of I kind of don't listen to anyone, which maybe is something I got to change. Yeah, I just listen to myself. I think that I can rationalize and work through anything, especially if it's something that I'm comfortable with. If it's not something I'm comfortable with, I can seek out an expert in the area. But I'm pretty much make my own decisions kind of guy. You know, comes with some good things and comes with some bad things. You know, I have a lot of confidence and a lot of conviction in what I do, but it also can be pig-headed and stubborn if you're not totally flexible. If you're going to advice for every single person for every single decision, you're basically not living your life. But if you never do that, you run the risk of, you know, keeping it too real, you know? So I can often keep it quite real.
So you think you can to walk through just like everything on your own, like you don't need advice from anyone?
No, I didn't say that. I you know, my lawyer is representing me. You know, I have all kinds of advisors and things like that. But, you know, in general, I'd say that, you know, I'm a pretty independent person.
So have you ever found yourself in like a tough spot where like you really haven't been able to figure it out? That, I mean, like obviously not everything is legal. Like you said, you go to your lawyer, but like sometimes you have like an issue with, I don't know, like a personal thing or something like that.
Yeah, you know, most of my problems these days are pretty technical. And then when they're not, like a relationship or whatever, I just kind of use my intuition and my life experience. But, you know, I'm sure there'll be some problem I run into that I probably should take somebody's advice on, but I'm not going to. So I don't know, man. You know, it's just how I am. I don't want to be in the hedge fund business. I never, you know, I kind of fell into it because it was a job. But I want to be in the pharma business. In a tech business, so I would like to not be banned from being involved with a public company. I don't want a felony for other reasons, just obvious ones. But, you know, being a hedge fund manager is not something
Does a felon prevent you from going public?
Oh yeah, being a felon prevents you from a lot of things. I don't think many banks want to deal with you at that point. You can forget about a loan, especially the kind of felony, right? Securities fraud. You know, if I were a bank, you know, I'm not sure that'd be my first kind of client I'd want. Kushner's hasn't had a huge problem in his businesses, but that's right. I think if anyone will get a little leeway, it might be me, but still...
People are lazy with this kind of thing, like, why bother do research when you can just not deal with it?
Yeah, the banks have automated systems.
Can't you get expunged after 7 years, though?
I don't think so, not a felony.
Yeah, I think you can after so many years.
I think that's missing.
Maybe. You know, I'll be doing everything in my power to figure it out, but I'm happy.
When is the sentence going to be announced anyway?
Nobody knows.
They can just like sit on that information for weeks. Is there a deadline?
When I know, everyone knows at the same time. The judge decides.
Okay.
Bernie, Martin, have you heard that Cuomo wants to give free college to everyone whose families make less than $130,000?
I don't think it's a terrible idea, to be honest.
I think it's like interesting the fact that he wants to push for that, and like Bernie Sanders backed him on that.
Yeah, it's not a horrible idea.
I mean, for me and like a lot of other kids, I think that's great.
I did the math once. Look, your personal situation doesn't make a fucking difference, right? The question is it good for society?
Right.
The cost in tax dollars, it's a very complicated calculation, but in essence, it doesn't seem...
It's not crazy, right?
It's not totally nuts, but it's not a slam dunk.
Listen, man, those CUNY's expensive.
Yeah, CUNY's a little different. But even on a CUNY pricing, it's not it's not totally clear it's a good deal for taxpayers.
I think of investing very differently from others. I think investing is a zero-sum game where most people are losers in the game, and ETF buyers are losers. Typically, you can make money and still be a loser. Keep that in mind. A loser is someone who is taking negative probability adjusted returns. It's a long story. I don't like stocks. I think stocks are a scam. Yeah, I don't think stocks go up over the long run. Yeah, so my parents came to this country with zero, zip, nada. And the second I start making money, you're supposed to apologize about it. And be very coy about it. I'm very subdued and humble about it. And that's just not who I am, And I think being authentic and being honest and being who you are. Look, I grew up in New York City. This is a town full of egos. This is where Donald Trump is from, Mayor Bloomberg.
It's like Philadelphia on a larger scale.
𝗠𝗏𝗏𝗏, George Soros. Every guy's is bigger than the other. And to grow up in this city and come out humble, man, ain't happening. This is the home of Jay-Z. This is the home of Nas. This is the home of 𝗠𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Mark, if there's one thing that you've learned through all these years of bad media, what can we do to not be susceptible to believing them? How can we do that?
I just ignore them. I block most of the media on my Twitter, so I can't really interact with them. Good question.
So where do we go about finding these good sources and researching this information?
I think you just do you. The news is a product meant that it's meant for you to consume the news. Don't buy the product. There's, what do you care about what's going on in Iraq or Iran? Focus on you, your life, your friends, your family, your career. Don't overconsume the news. It doesn't mean anything to you. Even the presidency, what difference does it make what bureaucrat is in Washington? It does not going to affect you. Just do your work, do your job. Don't
yes, sir.
Don't bother.